Why in the world is it so hard to communicate with your spouse? Why is that so difficult? Why do we have so many challenges when it comes to communicating? I have talked to hundreds of couples at least, and this is the number one challenge that they always raise. They say, we just don't communicate, or we just can't communicate. Maybe it's not that you can't, maybe it's that you've never quite learned. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the skills you need to develop in order to be a breakthrough communicator in your marriage. Imagine, I really want you to imagine this. Imagine becoming the kinds of communicators in your marriage relationship that get breakthroughs so that conflicts don't just boil up and spill over, so that you don't walk away feeling unheard or feeling ignored or feeling dismissed. Imagine being able to communicate. This is our episode on communicating. Hey, I want to welcome you to the show. I want to welcome you to Dream Marriage. I am Rod Hairston. I want to consider myself for the next few minutes, at least, your marriage mentor. That's it. I want to be your marriage mentor for the next few minutes, and I hope that you will embrace that. It's my privilege. I want to offer you some things in this session that will help you become great communicators together in your marriage. And you can do it. You can do it. So sit back, take in these next few minutes, write these principles down because they're going to be a huge, huge help to you. Now, before we get to them, I want to talk to you about the free Happy Marriage Workshop. Yes, this is my 6-stage process, the principles, the core ideas that will help you develop a happy marriage, a deeply satisfying connection to your spouse. Can you imagine that? Going from amazing frustration, you may not even be at a point of crisis, but you're frustrated. Imagine having someone help you walk through the key issues. And let me tell you, there are a few key issues which, if you really get around together in your marriage, will take you to a whole nother place in your connection, in your communication, in your finances, in your sex life, being on the same page about parenting your children. Yep, 6 simple principles, practices, concepts will help address almost any challenge that you have in your marriage. I discovered these after years of working with couples, studying counseling, working with couples, working on my own marriage for over 31 years, trying to get better myself, working with couples. And I say working with couples, couples in the NFL, couples in business, couples in Christian ministry, right? Just working with couples, speaking around the country on these issues and hearing people and doing research by talking to people, interviewing literally hundreds of people, like what are the issues in your marriage? This issue in particular today on communication is a real big deal. So get the link down below. Get that Happy Marriage Workshop. It's just for you. It's free. It obligates you to absolutely nothing. Just a resource that I really think can help you just begin to unpack the things that you need to have a happy happy marriage. All right, let's get into the main reason why we're here. We're thinking about why don't we communicate as a couple? I can't communicate with my spouse. We're not communicating with each other. We're not hearing each other. We're missing each other. We're frustrated. This is not going well. Here is the first thing that I want to remind you of is that listening and communication, and this is where I want to focus on the listening side. So many people think it's about what I say or didn't say. Did I say it right? Right? How can I say it to make sure you understand? And that has a place, but that is not the main issue. For most people, the issue is becoming an effective listener, not necessarily just a better listener. Like, it's not about just learning how to sit there and take it all in and hear it and go, okay, I heard you. No, that's not it. This is about becoming an effective listener. I want to talk to you today. I want to give you some principles for becoming a much more effective listener. This is a learned skill. It is a learned skill. And this skill it has to begin really down on the inside. Because if you want to be a better communicator with your spouse, and you have to become a better listener, a more effective listener, then something has to change on the inside. Because, we listen to the degree that we want to listen. So, first of all, let's talk about this listening as being more than words. I really want to capture that because some people think that listening is just about how well I hear and what words I heard and what words you said. And words are important. Don't get me wrong. Language is really important when it comes to communicating and listening. But if you limit your listening just to the words you hear and you don't learn how to listen for other things that are going on with your spouse, perhaps, right? If you don't learn how to listen for body language, if you don't learn how to listen to where they are emotionally, if you don't learn how to listen to what their big fear might be, you'll miss everything because you can hear the words and you can miss the real meaning behind the words and the real experience that your spouse is actually having way down on the inside. So your spouse might say things in a way that doesn't resonate with you. It doesn't feel like you're being cared about or heard or rather loved or respected. They may say things in a way that can throw you off. If you take that and run with it, you'll miss the whole opportunity to become a more effective communicator. I like to say to people, it's important that you learn to listen longer. Ooh, there's a whole, that's a boatload right there. Listen longer. I've worked with leaders all over the country, not just in marriage, but in organizations. And one of the things that I try to get leaders to do as they lead their organizations is listen longer to the people in the organization. The same thing applies when it comes to listening to your spouse. Listen longer, right? Chill out, sit tight, listen longer. Don't just listen to their words, but also listen to what's going on. What are they conveying about where they are emotionally? Let me give you another principle here I think will be helpful to you because listening requires that you be fully emotionally engaged, what I call emotionally poised, emotionally available to your spouse. You ever, okay, I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of this and I'm admitting it. My wife has had to say to me on many occasions, like, can you look at me while we're having this conversation and not at the football game over there? I'm like, I'm listening to you. I hear you. You see that whole attitude. I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. You might be hearing what they're saying, but you're not emotionally tuned in. And if you're going to become an effective communicator, you'll have to learn to be emotionally tuned into where your spouse is, or at least to what's going on, emotionally available, so that they feel like it's worth their while, it's safe to share with you their cry, their desperation, their frustration, what happened in their day yesterday, right? Whatever they're trying to convey, sit up and be present. Now, some of you are saying, I can do that, but my spouse isn't here, and he really needs, or she really needs to hear this video. By the way, you cannot be emotionally engaged in what your spouse is saying if you are on your smart device, if you are watching your Instagram thread, if you're busy taking emails, right? You can't be emotionally engaged. So listening requires that we be fully emotionally engaged. If you're going to become a more effective leader, you've got to learn how to measure anxiety in the moment. Whoa, this is a big concept, but I want you to get this. One of the reasons our conversations break down so quickly, so powerfully, is because there's anxiety happening. Your spouse is experiencing anxiety, you're experiencing anxiety, and sometimes it's happening and neither of you knows it. But when you get to a place where you're flustered and you can't really hear, and this is much, and I don't want to be here, and I don't want to deal with this right now, and you walk out. Has any of you ever done that? You just walk out like, I'm done. I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm not dealing with this crap right now. Leave me alone. Can we talk about emotional maturity when it comes to listening? Okay, this is true story. I'm talking about myself right now because I used to be the king of leaving when things got tense, and I would stop listening. And I would just go get in my car and I'm just going for a drive, and I would leave out the door. You know how we do. We slam the door, we slam stuff. I was so emotionally immature. I had so much learning and growing to do. And what I did not realize was that I was causing my wife so much anxiety. And what she didn't realize was that my anxiety was rising too. And if you're going to be an effective listener, you gotta begin to discern, how's my anxiety doing? I'm feeling anxious about this conversation. I didn't want to have this conversation. I'm feeling uneasy. When your anxiety is rising, do you know what's actually happening? Your brain is shutting down from its executive functioning ability to listen and discern and put information together. So that could be happening to both of you. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could say, hey, I need a timeout for a moment because my anxiety is really rising and I want to be able to hear you. And you go and take some deep breaths and calm down. And you remind your spouse, I want us to get through this. Ooh, this is a whole lot. But I want you to understand that being able to communicate with your spouse could be because you haven't learned to be fully emotionally engaged. It could be because you haven't learned to measure your anxiety. It could be because you're only listening to words and not in a multi-dimensional fashion. And in our Dream Marriage Masterclass, as well as our Dream Marriage Mentoring Community, we talk about multifaceted listening or multi-dimensional listening, so that we're listening to one another on multiple levels and discerning and learning to discern what's actually being communicated. Hey, I really hope that this has been helpful to you. I want to see your communication go to a whole new level. My joy and I feel a responsibility to marriages to help you win. And that's why I've made available this free resource called the Happy Marriage Masterclass. It'll take you briefly, but not in a shallow fashion, through my 6-stage process, right? The 6 big ideas that we help couples to get their minds around and get practicing. It's got great right? Got great exercises that people can do to really begin to capture their marriage relationship back, to get reconnected, to learn how to meet each other's deep needs, to become better communicators, more effective communicators, right? How to begin dreaming again about your marriage, how to resolve conflicts, how to rebuild broken trust. That's a doozy. How to help each other heal from past traumas, both before you got married and perhaps during your marriage. So, check out the free workshop, the Happy Marriage Workshop. The link is right below. I want you to get that. It's just for you, it's my resource to you. I took the time to put it together because I care about your marriage and I want to see you really grow forward as a couple. Hey, I want to say thanks again. I always appreciate that you allow me this time in your life, in your space. So much on YouTube that you could be checking out, but you're here at the Rod Hairston channel where Dream Marriage Mentoring is happening. So thank you again for the privilege to mentor you, to spend these moments. I hope you're encouraged. I hope you know that your marriage matters, that it's important, and that you can actually do this. You can improve your marriage. You can get better, both of you. You can absolutely do it. Hey, I will see you in the next episode. It was great, great to be with you.